welcome to the Crafty Maven Getaway podcast. This is your host, Hannah, and today we are on episode 18. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you guys have a cup of coffee and you are ready to go because we're going to talk about inspiration, but we're going to talk about it within growing and finding ourselves, which we have been on this journey about talking about our creative selves, right? So I really want to go in deep, and I really want to ask these questions to get you guys thinking about who am I as a creative person? Like, who am I? What are the things that I absolutely love? So I don't know about you, but have you ever went to the store? Let's go back in time, right? Have you ever went to the store and you found a scrapbooking magazine, or you were following this blog and you absolutely loved what you seen? And you're completely in awe of, like, how did they do this? And you want to figure it out. So you pull out your magazine and you look at every little tiny detail. I don't know about you, but I've done this. Okay. So, and then all of a sudden you go, I'm not good enough, am I? Because what I'm creating is not what I'm seeing. And I feel like in our industry, in our community, we can kind of get stuck a little bit because what we see from designers and longtime scrapbookers might not be what we see when we go to the crafts. And I know we've talked a little bit about this, right? About there's this difference. And how do we know, is this style our style, or is the style that we're doing our style? Like, how do we know? Is it that we're just being so influenced by the market, by the teams, by the companies, all of these things? Like, is it consumerism, or is it really my style because I absolutely love it? So this is where we're going to dig in, and we're going to connect what we love and our creative voice and use that, right? Because we need to use the inspiration that these companies are giving us. Why? Because they're there. But we can also, like Shannon was saying, go out and walk and see all the things around us and use that as inspiration. So let's use all these little things so that we can really, really pinpoint, like, who am I as a creative person? Like, what makes me happy? What brings me joy? And who am I? So one of the things that I've worked on a lot, and I know I've talked quite a bit about this, and it's one of those weird things because I don't mind talking about myself. I have this YouTube channel, right? And I started this podcast, so I knew obviously that kind of stuff would come about. But I do have a really hard time completely talking about myself in the sense of, like, I don't always want to show those bad things. I don't always want to talk about the things about me that are annoying, right? I know I'm annoying. Why? Because sometimes I annoy myself, right? But this is part of who I am, right? And one of the things that I've done a lot of this past probably 5 years is go through this journey of rediscovering myself. So let's get into a little therapy session, I guess, with Hannah. So, some of you may have known me before. I took a break, and some of you may not. So I have been a scrapbooker for about 11 years. And when I started, it wasn't soon after I started that I started a YouTube channel. I was watching and consuming so much scrapbooky stuff because I absolutely loved it. And I just loved playing. I loved all the different things. And so I was just watching and listening to other scrapbookers, you know. It was a real big highlight of my days because a lot of my days were tough because my daughter had cancer. And so there was a lot of these things, right? So it brought me joy, right? Like it does so many other people. And it was a form of therapy for me, right? And so I've grown as a creator, as a person. And I think because I was in such a weird place in my life, I really stopped. Knowing who I was, it was really easy to put that on a page. And then as I've grown as a YouTube scrapbooker, And then even like just grown as a person in other areas and having to move and change because my ex is in the military. There was a lot of different changes in our lives. And so it brought me to being here in Washington, and I was on quite a few teams, which I was super excited about, loved all the products and all the things that I was doing. And then my home life really disintegrated. Without going into like a ton, I was in a semi-abusive, controlling relationship. So it wasn't abusive in physical aspects, but in a lot of other aspects. So it really weighed on me mentally, right? But my scrap room was one place that I could come and be myself. But I had a really hard time because as that was happening and I was just cranking out lots of things, I also wasn't connecting with who I was in my day-to-day when I wasn't at my scrap desk. And when you are separate, and I know I've talked about this a little bit, when you are separate from your scrap place and your real life, if those two people don't match, eventually it catches up with you, right? And so if you don't know who you are in life, we kind of feel like we're wandering around. And it's the same way in our scrap room. If we don't know who we are as people, just as a person, as just a regular person, well, I mean, we're all regular people, right? But sometimes we forget that as we go through life, we change and we grow and we adapt and we are who we are. But if we don't stay true to that, then it is really, really tough, right? And I know that like identity is this really big thing, and I don't want to get into everybody else's story except for mine, because that's the only story I can tell you. But all I want to say is that I really lost who I was because I couldn't be myself in every day-to-day life. The only time I could be myself was when I was in my scrap room, and it was really tough. And then COVID hit, and it was really tough because I was stuck at home all the time with somebody who didn't like who I was. And so I had to like mask who I was. I had to tone down who I was. And yes, in my scrap room, I could be that person, but like it was catching up to me, right? And because I was losing who I was in my day-to-day, it was really tough to show that person to everybody else, to show the real me, who I was, right? And so I've spent quite a good amount of time going to therapy, because why not, right? No, therapy is awesome and amazing, even if you don't think that you have stuff that you have to pull out and dig out and deal with. Even just going to really kind of connect to who you are even more as a person, I think I totally recommend it. And it really helped me because it helped me get back to who's Hannah, right? And I am an ambitious person. When I want to do something, I just go. I don't care about consequences. I don't care about the plan. And does that come to bite me in the butt sometimes? Yeah, of course, right? I also am a loud, colorful person. I'm opinionated. I have learned to listen and let other people's opinions come out. But that's the great part about scrapbooking, right? Is that in this time when I'm creating, I can be that loud person. I don't have to worry about other people's voices, right? But as I'm scrolling through Facebook, scrolling on Instagram, looking on Pinterest, looking at blogs of other creators, I see this amazing work, right? And sometimes it's easy to go, what I'm doing isn't the same. And I had a hard time with this when I first started because I knew I wanted to play with stuff. I wanted to use paints and I wanted to use bright colors. And the industry was just coming up to that, right? There was some people and I had to find those people. So one of my maybe hopefully one of the takeaways that you can take today, and my advice is to really look and find people that you want to emulate because you scrap like that. So there is something about seeing yourself in other people's projects. Actually, I was watching Victoria Marie. She is doing vlogs now and some other stuff. And it's super fun to see her change just as her life is changing, right? And she was saying something about how it's really cool to see products and things that remind her of her or her kids or like where she is in life, right? And I think that's so important. And it got me thinking about, like, in scrapbooking, so many times I see things that I'm like, oh, I really would love to do that just because it would be fun and cool, right? I'm adventurous. Maybe not so much actually, no, I'm just adventurous. I was the kid that was climbing as high as I could in the tree, yelling at my mom to take a picture, to be like, hey, I was the kid that would wear lots of different colors and combos together because I just didn't care. My husband jokes around because he says that when he was doing his online dating thing, he'd meet so many women that'd be like, oh, I'm quirky. And then he'd meet, and they'd hype themselves up to be these quirky original people. And then we're just like everybody else. And he's like, but not you. He's like, but you don't say that you're quirky, but you really are. And I think that's kind of part of it, right? Is that we all have these things about us that make us us and make us unique, right? But sometimes we want to shy away from that and telling everybody that, but that's okay, right? So I'm saying all this stuff about who I am, and I want you to think about who you are as just a real person, as a genuine person. I want you to be real with yourself. And if you're in a stage of your life where you're discovering and you're in a new life process or situation or transition and season, as I like to say it, really look for people that remind you of you and or people that that those are elements that you want to emulate, right? That person is strong. I need to be strong. I want to be strong, or I'm strong, so I'm going to find that, right? And it's no different when we're scrapbooking and creating, right? So we need to have an example of people who are like us, who do things like us, and then people who have things that we want to try to emulate, right? And this is how we find this balance, right? This is how we grow, by finding the things that we want to emulate, and then find people and styles that are us, that we do now, right? And then as we are doing both, we can kind of find this fun little balance, and we can grow as artists and creators and scrapbookers and art journalers, card makers. And we can grow, but we can hold on to who we truly are. Because if you start doing things for other people, you start doing things because you think, oh, that's a cool design team to go on, or all my other friends scrap like this, so I should do it. Like, when you're doing it for someone else other than yourself, you are going to lose who you are, and then you're not going to have fun. Eventually, you're not going to have fun, unless the fun part is doing all the different things. So, but this is where you have to know who you are, right? So if you're in a season of you don't know who you are, I really hope, and I encourage you to like kind of go on that journey of like, who am I? And I think, like I said, I had that issue too. I had that issue. I woke up one day in my life and I said, I don't know who this person is. Hannah's gone. The Hannah that I absolutely love, the Hannah who doesn't care if someone says no. I just want to do something. The Hannah that started that YouTube channel, who knew almost absolutely nothing about scrapbooking. I knew nothing, guys. Nothing about scrapbooking, really. And I didn't have any equipment except for a laptop and an iPad. And I made out of a guardrail for a toddler bed with books stacked. I made a holder to hold my iPad so I could record. And I took that and I put it on this crappy laptop. And I used my ex-husband's gaming mic. And I just went for it. I didn't care. Oh, Snap Gonzo said, hey, if you want to do a YouTube channel and you really think that you want to share your work, go ahead and share it. And I was loving what I was doing. And I'm playing. And I remember going, man, it would be, maybe one day it would be really cool to be on the design team. And I remember looking at myself and going, but I'm not like anybody else. And I know I was talking to Dina Wakely, and she was saying how when she was scrapbooking, there wasn't people like her. And that was one of the things she struggled with, because what she was wanting to do, that's not what everybody else was doing. So, but you know what she did? She stuck to who she was. And look at her now, right? And everybody wants to be her. And she even said this to me. She was like, you need to be the best you, Hannah. She's like, you have to be the best you. So this is my advice for today, is you need to be the best you, because you're the only one who can be that, right? And it's okay if you're still looking, right? And while I was doing my immense going through like the hard stuff with therapy, I was not scrapbooking. So I will say that this is a journey that I wasn't sharing, and I wasn't ready to share. And even there's a lot of parts to my story that I don't necessarily know that I want to share on a large scale. Talking like one-on-one with people, I don't mind sharing, and that's okay, right? But knowing that there's that is fine, right? But going through that stuff and trying to tone down who I was on the other side of that, like when I closed that door, that was really tough, because I was trying to like play the part of somebody who was Hannah, but she wasn't there. And so it got harder and harder. And as I started doing therapy, and I realized like, oh, these are the things that I absolutely love. Like I love color. I love playing with paints. And sometimes I just have to get messy. And sometimes I know, like, Hannah, you have to have a plan. And I know that I function good with a plan, right? So I will go and pull out a sketch. But then I use that as like an inspiration. I was doing trying to do a layout for a hop, right? And we had to scrap lift that person. And I was like really struggling, guys, because I'm like, I just want to play with paint. I want to play with paint. I want to play with paint. And the paint that I was doing was not working because I picked a layout that had paint on it because I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I was just having such the hardest time. You want to know why? Because I was really just trying to emulate that person. And then it hit me. Why are you trying, like, as much as the whole thing is to scrap lift this person, why are you trying to fit into the box of this person? Because I'm not that person. And I know I'm not that person. And that's okay. Because that person isn't Hannah, right? That person isn't you. And so, okay, let's get into this. Okay? Because I actually have some things that I want to share, like, I want us to go through. Because I think this is so important, right? Because it is so easy to open up a blog post, look at Instagram, and see something amazing, but go, I could never be that. And that's okay. And this is why, once again, you absolutely need to have people that you are following that scrapbook and have elements of their style that is you. That way you can be inspired, but you're not comparing yourself to somebody else. So I have the problem that when I am doing things within the industry, I don't have this problem so much with seeing somebody else's work and going, oh my gosh, I'm not as good of a scrapbooker. Though every once in a while, maybe. I usually let those things go because I am not someone who has a really hard time with my self-esteem. But I know that that's not a lot of people, right? That's me. But you may be completely different, and you might see somebody's work and go, oh, I am never going to be good enough. And you know where that gets you? Nowhere. It gets you nowhere. And you want to know why? Because then you create hurdles for yourself that don't need to be there, right? Then you create these stops within your scrapbooking that don't need to be there, right? Because you say, I can't do that, so why try? I'm not as good as that. So, I'm going to stick to this other thing, when really it just means playing, or it means being okay with, but it's a process that you have to go through, right? So if you know who you are, then it's not a big deal that you can't be that person or create like that person. I shouldn't even say be that person, because you're never going to be that person, because that person had all these different experiences that were not your experiences, right? And the things that we experience in our life show up on our table, guys. They show up. They show up on that desk. And they might not look the same for everybody, and it might not seem like they don't, or they do. But you know what? We're pulling in pictures, right? If we're a scrapbooker, we're pulling in pictures. And I know, like, I've had conversations, and I've listened to conversations with people who are like, oh, I'm going in this new season in my life, and I'm in this season in my life, and my kids don't like me to take pictures of them, or my husband absolutely hates it and he ruins it. Like, guess what? My ex-husband was like that too. He did not like pictures. And if he was in a mood, I wasn't getting pictures. But you know what? I knew who I was, and I knew that I wanted pictures. So I found a way, right? So when you know who you are, you will find a way for whatever problem that you have at that desk, right? So let's talk a little bit about inspiration. What is inspiration? And where can we get it? I know we've talked a little bit about this. We've talked a lot about this. We're going to talk a lot about this because I love inspiration. And my hope and desire is for you guys to be inspired so that you create a project and a scrap life and a craft life that you want, that you deserve, because you deserve it, right? We deserve to be able to sit down, have our cup filled, so that when we leave this room, we leave this space, we're even more inspired to have better memories, to have more meaningful memories and things in our life. We're ready to connect with the world, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? There's different elements of connecting to the world around us. Like, I have ADHD really bad now that I'm an adult, and I absolutely hate it. And I think a lot of it stems from being on social media so much as an adult, doing all these things on computers, all these things on phones. So sometimes my kids will want to talk to me, and what am I doing? I've took that 5 minutes that I wanted to take to scroll through so I could doom scroll without thinking, and they want to have a conversation, right? And so when I'm in my room and I'm getting all this stuff out, I have all of the connections made so that I can put my phone down, or I can actually hear what they're wanting, because my kids want to have conversations with me, right? Your family wants to have conversations with you. And maybe it's tough. Maybe you get people out so fast, right? Maybe you don't. Maybe you need people. Like, when my husband now, he works long shifts, for multiple days during the week, which is absolutely awesome in the fact that I know I have this time that is just me time. I can make it me. And I say that like I don't have kids I have to take care of. I absolutely do. But I have time that I can create and make space. But then that also means that when I'm doing all of this stuff, I'm not interacting with with him, with the people that matter the most besides my kids, right? So it's like, especially when my kids are gone with their dad and there's nobody else here, right? My husband will come home and I'll be like, bloop, bloop, bloop. It'll be 6:30 in the morning, guys. I'm not a morning person. 6:30 in the morning and I'm ready to chit chat because I haven't had those conversations, right? And he's like, whoop. And his brain is like, I need to slow down because I'm tired, right? But so when I am in balance, right? And I come to my room and I use the space, then I can hold back and go, oh, I know it's 6:30 in the morning. My husband needs to slow down. So let's have fun conversations where we don't have to talk about anything. You know, I'm not starting fights or a conversation that we just can't have, right? But if I wasn't balanced, if I didn't come to my space and didn't know who I was, then I wouldn't be able to do that. Anyway, so what is inspiration? Let's get back to that. Inspiration is what gives you energy. It gives you ideas. It fills you with joy. And it fills your cup, right? It's all these good things. Inspiration is good. Comparison. Let's talk about comparison. It is bad. Okay. No. It's a spectrum, right? Comparison is a spectrum because comparison isn't always bad, but if you don't know who you are, it's not going to be healthy, right? And we need to be healthy because if we want to grow as a scrapbooker, as a creative person, then knowing who you are is going to help you grow instead of using it as like a crutch, using it as a big old boulder, you know, because then you are creating doubt, you're judging yourself, and then ultimately it can lean and you can go towards this burnout. You can go to like not being able to make creative decisions that maybe you would easily be able to make. So, and you get creative fatigue because you're just trying so hard, right? And so we have to shift our inner dialogue so that we can we control the things that we allow to affect us, right? And that does happen even in scrapbooking, right? So I see tons of stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, I absolutely want to do that. Right? I'm inspired by it because it's something. And honestly, guys, a lot of times what I like to do is look at other people's art in a different way. And I know Shannon and I were talking about this, about going out and using nature and how she does that. And that helps her a lot. And I found that using other forms of art as inspiration, as opposed to you like admiring the scrapbooky stuff, but that's not always what I'm trying to emulate, right? And even when I've taken classes, this is really tough. Actually, taking classes has been always really tough for me because I want to grow. I took a class with Wilna Verstenberg. And I think it was a art, like color theory. I think it was a Studio Calico class. And it was lots of color, which I absolutely loved. And I did learn, but I had a hard time because Wilna does things way different, even than what I was doing. Her stuff was a lot busier, and I just didn't feel like I could make it fit into who I was. And And then it defeats the purpose, right? So, and I think a lot of that was because I was still growing as a scrapbooker and trying to figure out who I was. So it's good to get all of that stuff, but you also have to know, and this is just where like knowing who you are as a person helps you in that creative aspect, because then you can just like I said, let go of the things that don't matter. And then you just learn and you just have fun. Actually, one of the classes that I took, and I'm a big proponent of taking classes, like, honestly, like, we should be spending more of our money taking classes. So this one thing I love about Vicky Booten is that she's really a really good teacher, and she's really good at just sharing techniques. And then you can take that and use it different ways. And so, you know, she's a smart woman, and when you see something smart, like emulating it is really awesome. But you also, when you don't know who you are, you're going to take on all of these different elements of creating that aren't yours to take, right? And maybe in a different season, you can do that, right? So I really want to inspire you guys to learn who you guys are, so that when you go to your table, you can say, oh, I love this little thing, but I'm going to leave out all the rest. You know, I'm going to scrap lift, but I'm going to like, it's not going to look anything like that. And that's okay. Like, it took me a while to be okay with knowing that if I scrap lift someone, it probably was going to look absolutely nothing like that layout. And honestly, when I do scrap lift layouts where I like make it almost exactly like how they did it, I almost never like it. And it's not that I didn't do a good job with the layout. It's not that I didn't create something awesome. It's that there wasn't enough of me on the page. But you can't do that if you don't know who you are, right? So I want you to take some time to do a style audit, okay? So what kind of techniques do you like to do? What kind of colors are you drawn to? What kind of feel do you want on your pages that match who you are, right? So one of the things, I know me and Megan talked a little bit about this, and we talked about like doing all the different things. I absolutely love Allie Edwards, and I love that she's story driven and that she's super intentional about telling all these stories, right? And so for the longest time, and I want to preface this saying, I've come out with some great stuff that I've done by following some of her work, okay? But I think it's just coincidence. Okay, so, but I've struggled because I've always felt like, oh, I need to do your word, and I got to do day in the life and what in the life or week in the life and all these the different story things that are awesome and amazing. Okay. And I'm not bashing on that at all. I hope you guys know this. Because it is so important to tell your stories, right? Like, we're using our lives and we're creating, as me and Kathy were talking, we really are leaving something behind, right? But I found that because she is so story driven, it didn't match my creativeness, and I needed more. And I will say, I've seen Allie do other things, and I think she does other creative things within her scrap room that she just doesn't share. And so I think sometimes, and this goes with the comparison thing, I think sometimes we compare ourselves to other people without knowing all of the information, right? So I, especially in my earlier years, I was using this information of like, oh, Allie is story driven, right? So, it's okay. The creative part that she's doing is through her words, right? And then she does other creative stuff. And I wasn't thinking about the fact that, like, yes, I love story writing. I used to do this all the time when I was a kid, but I don't want to do it on my layouts all the time. And like I said, I've done some story driven layouts that I absolutely love. One of my favorite ones I did with her story kits, and I loved those story kits, but honestly, they're like, it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't colorful enough for me. It didn't have enough of the elements that I like to use. And so I was just getting it and collecting them. They're still in my thing. And actually, maybe that's one of the things I need to do for Kill a Kit with style this month. But anyway, is use some of those, but make them me. Maybe that's a challenge. So let's do a style audit, okay? I'm getting off topic, and I hope that you guys can follow my train of thought here. Because anyway, so I found that when I was doing it Allie's way and not Hannah's way, that I wasn't in it. I wasn't in love with it. I loved it. I wasn't in love with it, right? And I know sometimes we talk about this, and getting remarried, like getting divorced and getting remarried, like really made me realize the difference between loving someone and being in love with someone, right? So, when you're in love with someone, you can't wait to see them. You can't wait to talk to them. You can't wait for this. I'm in love with scrapbooking, guys. I'm in love with it. I can't wait to get in here. And sometimes you're in a season where life is crazy and you're not in love with it. You love it, but you're not in love with it. So tone it down, and that's okay. So I think sometimes we got to take the pressure off, but this is how you style audit, right? You think about, when are the times that I absolutely am in love with it? I'm in love with it. What are those things that helped get you there, helped you feel that feeling, right? It's like, once again, I'm going to use myself a lot here. Going through the whole dating process, it's like, I dated guys that, yeah, I could probably see more of, but I wasn't in love with them, right? Like, I wasn't waiting to get a text. You know, when me and my husband now, when we first started dating and we were talking about things that we loved, which was not art stuff. But it was, I couldn't wait. Like, I'd hear something and I couldn't wait to tell him. And even now, like, we share things, like, I can't wait to tell him this. And he can't wait to tell me stuff, right? So it's like, you want those elements even when you're in your scrap room, right? Like, I can't wait to tell this story. I can't wait to play with this product. I can't wait to try this new thing that's in my head. So I was talking about doing the hop where I had to scrap lift someone, and it didn't turn out, it's like, you know, it took me a while to get there. And I did this layout, and I love how the layout that I did turned out. It looks almost nothing like the layout that I scrap lifted. Like, almost nothing. But in that process, I thought of this idea, and it didn't quite turn out because I was trying to do it while scrap lifting someone else. And I can't wait to have that work out. Even if I have to try it 10 more times. Okay. Seriously, even if I have to try it 10 more times, I can't wait for it to turn out exactly how I wanted it. Okay. And so, I don't know. Eventually, hopefully I'll get there. But I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to do all these fun things. And so, and it's because I want to play with paper and textures. I want to play with color. I just want no rules on that page, because at the heart of it, I am a rule breaker. I'm really bad at following rules. If I don't want to do something, I have a really hard time doing it. You know, I see my daughter in me so much, right? So think about those things, because that's part of your style. You know, there are some people who absolutely love the rules on their pages, and they need those rules because outside of their life, maybe it's something else, right? And so knowing that about yourself, and so just take the time. I know it's hard because a lot of us aren't we're marathon scrapbookers. we know we have our whole lives to do all this, right? Not all of us are creative scrapbookers on YouTube, like content creator scrapbookers. So we're not constantly thinking. And I think this is the hard part that I've had with coming back into the industry or in the community after taking such a big break, is there's days where I don't have time to think about the layout that I want to do. So how do I do those things, right? And I'm realizing that how I was scrapbooking before is not doable long term. Why? Because I started doing it and it's not doable, guys. It's not doable. I hate to break it to people. If you're a content creator, there's only so long you can do it a certain way. You have to give yourself breaks. You have to allow. But anyway, that's for a whole other show. And we're going to have a show about that later in this series, is like, how do we avoid burnout within this whole big process? I know me and Megan were talking about it, but I want to talk about it more because it's such a big thing. Right? And some of it is either we don't take enough time to think about us on a page, us as creators and artists, and we just don't take enough time to do that ahead of time because we only have so much time. It's like organizing. Like, I don't have the time. Like, guys, I have, you can see it back here. Oh my gosh, I can't point. So you see all this stuff right here? This is stuff that needs to go up in here for kids, right? But I just want to be at my desk playing with paint, and sometimes that wins. But sometimes I have to sit down and I have to make a plan too, right? So it's that balance. Okay, so I want you to use inspiration for intention. So we talked a little bit about this, like using somebody else's thing because I want to emulate that, right? There's something there that I want to emulate or I want to try. So I want that to be more about intention. Like, I intend to use this technique. I love how that person layered. I want to try that, knowing that I don't layer like that. Layering is one of those things that I absolutely love to do. When I try to layer how Jen Scow layers, it's not Hannah. And I have a really hard time. And I have done it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you can do it. You can do it. But how many times am I going to do that and then not, like, I'm just not going to enjoy it? I kind of fall out of love with scrapbooking the more I do things that aren't me, right? And we all have these moments, and sometimes you got to try it, and sometimes you think you like it, and then you realize, no, I don't like it, right? This is why we don't just go back to dating. It's why when you're dating, you date someone for a little, like, you do it in sections isn't even the word. You do it in stages, right? You get to know someone and you date them a little bit, and then you have conversations and you pick apart different elements of life with that person and kind of see how you jive. This is how you got to think about it in scrapbooking. You got to think about it in the terms of dating. Like, I'm getting to know this person. I'm getting to know this technique. How do I like it? Then maybe you do it a little bit more and you go, okay, how does this make me feel? Do I keep wanting to do it, or do I feel like obligated to do it? Like, if you're somebody in real life that you you feel obligated to do things sometimes, that might be an indication that at your desk you might also feel obligated to keep doing a style or doing a technique that you don't really care for. And I know we've had this conversation and we talked about this quite a bit, but if you're not loving what you're doing at your desk, why are you doing it? This is why, knowing your reason why, knowing who you are as a creative person, this is going to help you so much, because then you get there and you're always, eventually you'll just always just be doing the things that you love, even when you're trying something new. So think about it in the sense of, I'm dating this technique. I'm dating this element that I want to try. You're not married to it. Don't marry it until you know that it's you. Be intentional about asking yourself, do I still love this? Does it still make me want to keep coming back? Because those are the things that I know. This is how I know that that's the kind of scrapbooker I am, because when I don't do it after a while, I so miss it. You know, when I force myself to do styles that I don't like, then I kind of am like, I'd rather do something else. You know? But it doesn't mean that we don't learn and grow, right? So we don't always have to stick to what we love, but it's just doing that with intention, right? We're being intentional about asking ourselves these questions, like, does this still spark joy? Does this still fill my cup? How do I need to change it today? Right? And so let's talk about scrap lifting, right? Because I was talking about this a lot. So when you scrap lift, think about it as tweaking, right? Not twerking, like the dance, tweaking. And what I mean by this is, think about it in terms of, I'm going to keep one element of that page. So maybe this is your homework for this week. I want you to find a layout or a project that you see something that you want to emulate. Okay. And I want you to just take one thing from that layout to emulate, not the whole thing. So I want you to think of it like we're scrap lifting, but we're only doing a semi-scrap lift. You're just going to scrap lift one element, one thing that you want to use. Okay? And I want you to do that. Okay? But keep the rest how you would normally scrapbook, right? So use the colors that you love to use, if that's not the thing that you want to emulate. Right? So that one thing, just have it be one thing. Just take one thing from a layout. And this is, I will say, this is the things that I do often, is I will just pick one thing from something. This is why a lot of times I like to use other art as inspiration, because I know that I'm not going to take it and use the whole thing. And there is nothing wrong with doing that if that's what brings you joy. I also hope you know, these aren't hard and fast rules to finding out who you are. If you absolutely love to emulate other people, go ahead and do it. Don't not do it because you love it. But also know that art, if your reason why is to be you on a page, and I guess that's what the series is about, is this is for people who, I want you to be inspired to be you on a page. So if you absolutely love to just do what everybody else is doing, that's fine. Then do it. Don't not do it because you think that oh, well, I just always steal other people's ideas. You know? And I say steal I'm borrowing their ideas and putting it in my own layouts. They're not going to know. We all do. As creators who put their content out there for other people to consume, I figure that you're doing it because you know that other people are going to follow your example, right? That's why I do it. I share it because I hope that it inspires someone else. If they want to go out and create something that is similar, go for it. If they want to create it exactly the same, that's fine. I will say that they had different experiences than I did. And they probably have a different techniques than I do. This is why if you just take one thing, it makes it so much easier for yourself, because you give yourself room to be you on a page without feeling like you're just copying somebody else's page, if that is not what your intention is. Sometimes I do just want to copy someone else's page because I really liked that page and that would be me. I could do like that. Their style is me. And so anyway, and then I also want you to think about, what do I love about this? So when you create something, I want you to look at it and go, what do I love about this? If I could change something, what would I change? And then go ahead and do that, right? So this is what our journey should be like, is what do I love about what I just did? And how can I change what is something that I could do different, that I would love to do something? What would I love to do differently that maybe I didn't like? And this is part of our process, right? And this is part of like knowing who you are and learning who you are, is doing something and going, what do I love about it? Assessing it. What do I love about this? Also, what could I do? What would I love to do differently? Like, what did I not like about this? And do that too. Sometimes some of the best layouts that I've done are ones that I didn't like, and then I retried to scrap lift. This is why scrap lifting yourself is awesome, like so cathartic in a lot of ways, right? So also, actually, maybe that's what you should do, is take a layout and scrap lift yourself. And I've had a really hard time because when I first started coming back this year, one of the hops that I was in, and one of the challenges I gave myself for this year, is to be in a lot of hops and do creator collabs, because I really, really wanted to get back integrated in the community, because I miss the community. It's one of the things I love about scrapbooking and sharing online, is the community. I love the interactions. I love the friendships that I get to make and have made. And so I was like, so I've tried to do a lot of different things. I will say, the more I'm scrapbooking, the more I'm doing these other things, I'm finding myself doing that less, but I still have the intention of having conversations with other people in the community, because it's so important. We help feed off of each other, and we can really learn from each other, because we all have had different ways of life, right? And stuff. So, and it's a really cool way to be inspired, right? And the community is so inspirational, but also like really backs each other up, and I absolutely love that. So anyway, I scrap lifted myself. The challenge was a scrap lift, a layout that we did before, and let me tell you, I didn't like what I did the second time. I don't know. And I did that layout. The original layout was for a challenge that Christy did, Christy's Beautiful Life. And I don't even remember what the challenge was. And so, I don't know. It's like, I think it was, I don't know. I just really liked that one. And I didn't like the second one. But you know what would be fun in a learning experience is for me to take that layout and go, okay, well, what did I like about it the second time? Because I loved the original, and there's elements on that second one that I did love. Like, I loved that I tried a different technique. It didn't quite turn out. And then, you know what I did? I redid that technique, and I did it differently this time, and I liked how that turned out. I'm actually working on a short to share the process of doing the media part, because the layout's not done, but the media part is done. And so anyway, so I encourage you guys that when you do a layout or you do a project and you like something or don't like it, use those as guideposts, right? So look at when you are done making it, look at it. What do I love about this? What didn't I love? What could I do differently? And redo it, retry, because this is how we grow as creators, right? So not only should we be consuming other people's things, we need to be consuming our own things so that we really get to the heart of who we are as creators. Okay. So I want you to pay attention to what you love to create. Okay. And not just, especially for people who share online, not just what other people want to see. So this is one of the things that I have the hardest time with, okay, because I share online. I could care less, honestly, about like a lot of things. Like, I let go a long time ago that I might get paid by YouTube. I absolutely love that people can get paid on YouTube. It is so awesome that people in our industry, in our community, can make money. I've let that go a long time ago. Why? Because I care more about creating what I want to create. And I do tons of challenges and I do tons of stuff. For me, I let that go. So if you are someone who's a content creator, and we'll probably get into this, make sure you're doing enough for yourself, because likes are great, people being but the intention is that you're sharing it so that other people get inspired, right? It's kind of like a mustard seed or like a seed, right? As a content creator or someone who shares our creative work, right? We're planting a seed. You may never see, like, you know how like sometimes birds will eat seeds and then they poop the seeds out, and the next thing you know, like, this is how blackberries get spread a lot, right? And berries. You may never see the actual plant that grows from that inspiration, right? And so that's how we all should be thinking about this. Like, and maybe for you, it's doing things that you like, not that you think that your husband's gonna like. I know Megan talked about that, how her ex didn't like patterns, busy patterns, and so sometimes she would stay away from that on her pages because she wanted to make things that she knew that he liked. Now, there's something about making something for someone that you know they're gonna like, right? So if you're making a card for a specific person, do what you know that person's gonna like, right? But if you're creating something for yourself initially, and I'm going to come right out here and say, and this might be an unpopular opinion and comment, but at the end of the day, when you spend all your time in your scrap room, you're not doing it for anybody else, guys. You're doing it for yourself because you absolutely love it. You love telling your stories. You love looking back at the things that you've done with your family, right? And you want to leave something for them, yes. And don't get that confused. Like, you want to leave these things. I love when my kids come and they look at the albums. You know, honestly, I wish that I spent more time putting all my layouts and albums, and this is a whole other episode all on itself, right? Because I know I have a ton of layout. I have like a whole stack full of layouts back here that need to get put in page protectors. I have some growing over here too now, right? So, and they can't even look at those because they're not even in page protectors. They're just sitting there waiting. And I absolutely love when they get to enjoy those. It does bring joy to me, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it because I love to create. I love to get messy. I love to play with paper. I love pretty things. Right? And the byproduct, like, one of the icings on the cake is that, oh, they get to look at them. But like, when I die, I don't know what they're going to do with it, and they might not keep it. And you know what? I have to be okay with that. And that's okay. That's okay for me. So I want you to pay attention to what you love to create and work towards doing that more. Okay. Don't have it just be what you think everybody else wants to see, whether it be your family or whether it be online. I want you to reflect on layouts that made you feel authentic, like that feels authentic. What layouts or techniques or things that you're doing do you feel in love with? Like you're excited to do. You're itching to do it, okay? Like I am itching to get to my desk and recreate this other thing. Last week I was itching to create backgrounds, and so I have like half done things. I just put paint on this because I was playing with watercolors, right? And that's okay. Right? So it doesn't always have to be like the same type of thing. You know, like this week I'm ready to get in and actually play and put everything all on a page. But last week I just wanted to create backgrounds. Right? So I want you to think about like parts of the process, because you don't have to do it all at once. Like I used to feel like I had to complete a layout from start to finish. And don't get me wrong, there's something that is amazing and like you feel this accomplishment by doing the whole thing. But I have learned that in this stage of my life, there are some days where I'm so busy that it's okay if I just do something else. I just make watercolors. Last night, I didn't have the mental capability to like do anything, but I made watercolors. I figured out what kind of color I wanted, played around with it, and so now I have this really pretty watercolor that I now have to fix because they dry down. So, and I can show you. It's like such a beautiful color. It reminds me of the ocean, which is what I wanted. But I didn't have time or the capability to like do a whole layout. And if I had tried to do that, I wouldn't have loved it. And it would have taken from my cup instead of filled my cup, right? Okay, so I also want you to limit outside content when you are feeling not so sure. Okay, and I want you to look at your stuff that you've done and what is inspiring you. So when you are starting to feel like, oh, I don't feel like going to my desk, I want you to think about the things that you've done. My watercolors is just, I'm going to go back to that, right? So yesterday I wanted to get creative because my husband's at work, I have time, but I didn't really have the mental capability to do that. You know, I was working, and so I come home, my kids have other stuff on that day. So like it's a busy day, but I wanted to do something creative. So I thought about, what do I love? And what can I do? And I did that, right? So when you're kind of in a funk, I want you to look at your stuff. I don't want you to look at everybody else's stuff. There'll be other days for that and other times for that, right? So I want you to know, like, there's always another time. I mean, I know our time is limited on this world and all that. Okay. But in all reality, you probably have another day, right? Maybe you don't, but it's like on those days that it's hard, just know you have another day. You don't have to do it all at once. You can just do, you don't have to look at everybody else's stuff and be over, because then you're just scrolling and then you get this creative overload, and there's so much that your brain you can't do anything with it. And honestly, like when I find myself just looking at inspiration and not doing it, then it's like it just kind of becomes white noise in a weird way, right? And I don't want that to happen to you guys. So like if you're starting to feel a little bit funk, or you have, it's a busy day and you don't have the, like, don't be going out looking at everybody else's stuff unless that's a day that you said, okay, and I don't know about you guys, but like on Instagram, they make it super, super, super easy to like tag yourself or like tag something to save it. Right. And there's days where I'm not creating anything. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go look online. Limit yourself. Say, you know what? I'm only going to save 2 things. So make those 2 things worth it. Because if all if all you're doing is saving inspiration to use later, but you don't actually use it, then why are you saving it? And it might mean going to another place to get inspiration. I know we've talked about this with some of the other ladies about where we get our inspiration from, and figure out which one is the one that you are most productive with using. So I don't want you to think about it as where can I find the most pretty things, though that might be part of it. I want you to think about where do I go that I actually use this. So I know Pinterest, I don't use that for layouts at all. There's some people who that's all they do. I've uploaded my stuff to Pinterest. Not as much as I should, but no, but when I want to go make an inspiration piece, I go to Pinterest and I know exactly. And so I'm productive on that app, right? I know that if I want to use something for inspiration, I need to go to Instagram, and that's where I go. And I just save a couple of things. I put them in a folder, and then I use them. So I want you to think about like even where you're going for your inspiration and are you actually using it? Or how are you using it? And so if you're in a creative funk and like, oh, I can do this thing creative and use this app, use that app. Like, so it's not even just like not using other people's inspiration to help inspire you. It's about figuring out like how you use it and using it in the best way to be the most productive, right? Because that's the whole goal when you're in a creative funk, is to not push the limits and give yourself more inspiration that you're just not going to use and you're going to feel bad. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I feel really bad because I'm not creating anything. Like, and don't be hard on yourself. I think I've talked about this, and I just want, like, don't be hard on yourself. If you're having a creative funk or you're having a hard time figuring out who you are, don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay to. It's okay to just have fun too. Just know that like I'm going to have fun for a little while, and then I'm going to sit down and go, what did I really love about that time period? Like, what did I really enjoy doing? And so like in the middle of these things, ask these questions. You don't have to take like forever to do it. You don't have to make it all so philosophical, though you can, like if that's what you enjoy. Okay. And I also want you to ask yourself, if no one else saw this thing that I made, would I still love it? So this is going to go back to that whole creating for other people. Like, will I still love this? Like, so I find that I do this a lot when I'm going through and looking at my layouts, like, and I'm like putting them away. It's usually when I'm putting them away, or I have to get something, or I needed to find one, and I'm looking through and I'm like, okay, that's when I ask, did I like that? And just make a mental note. So anyway, so I want to kind of close this up because I've been talking for a little while. And so our creative identity is really tied into who we are as a person, whether it's opposite of who we are because of the world has made us a certain way, or help contribute to who we are in a certain way. And so we're kind of trying to break free from that, or whether we are who we are in life, and that's who we are. Like, so it can be different, right? But who we are as an artist and a creative person, right, is so important when we know, right? And it takes time to kind of figure it out, and it takes time to be intentional and to ask ourselves these questions, to really dig in, because our voice, our creative voice, is like a fingerprint. Everyone is different, right? So when we're growing and we're being intentional and we're using who we are as a guide, then we can really grow and really make a difference in our own lives with our scrapbooking and our creativeness, right? And in the end, that's what it's there for. It's for us. Other people can benefit from it, but it is for us. So like, even when I sit here and I say, I hope that I'm inspiring you, like, I'm doing it because I know that I have gotten so much inspiration from other people sharing what's inspired them and the things that they're doing in their journey, that's why I do it, right? But I also, when I get to that table, I am doing things that I love. And yes, I have setbacks, right? Where I do things maybe not so much, or I had that season in my life where I was trying to continue to be Hannah with losing Hannah on the outside, and I just couldn't do it, guys. I could not do it. I could not keep living every day by giving up a piece of me. And I don't want you to get to that point when you're creating where you've given up so much of who you are in your creative voice that you look at your work and you're like, I don't know who did this because it wasn't me. I don't see me, right? I want you to always go, that's me. That's Hannah. That's Jackie. That's Gia. That's, that's me. I want you to think about, that's me. And I was being true to me, right? You don't have to worry about being the best, being the coolest, the hippest, being the most unique. You just have to worry about what you love and listening to who you are and taking the time to work through that when you're at your desk, right? And use it as a guide as you're going. But know that we are always changing. If you continually stay the same in your scrapbook life, in your real life, then you become a boring person to yourself and to others. And I don't want that to happen to you, right? I want you to always know that you're growing and you're an amazing person. You're an amazing artist, even if your stuff doesn't seem like everybody else's. This is why at the beginning I reminded you guys, find other people who create things like you do. Not because you always have to have someone like you to be inspired, but it's nice to also be around people who think like you too. So like, we have to have this mix of people who think like us and people who don't think like us. This is how we grow. This is how we have the balance, right? So you need to be you, and you need to use inspiration to guide you, but not to be like, you're not letting it define you, right? You're not letting that inspiration tell you who you are, if that makes sense, right? So I gave you guys an assignment, and I want you to find a layout that you've done, right? Actually, find 2 layouts, because I want you to find a layout that you absolutely love. And you're like, I am so in love with this layout. I love that I did it. I want you to do that. And then I want you to find a layout that you're like, nah. And I want you to take the elements that you loved about the layout that you loved. And I want you to take an element of the things of the layout that you didn't like, and what could you change, and merge those and make a whole new layout, right? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to do that. It could be an art project too, an art journal page. It doesn't have to be a layout, but, and I want you to merge those 2 things together. Okay. And I always want you to keep in your mind that in order to grow as a creative person, you have to be intentional. So at some point you have to sit down and you have to take that time, whether it's right before, whether it's when you're not being creative, and maybe taking some time to think, like, to go through stuff, right? And don't feel like you have to do it all. Okay. And so this week we're really just focused on just like really getting into being intentional. So be intentional, guys. Be you, and let the inspiration guide you, not define you. So thank you guys for joining me today. I will see you guys next week, and we're going to talk more about your creative identity. I have a little bit more to go with this, because I think that we need to talk about just giving ourselves permission to like really play, but I also want to talk a little bit more about burnout and using other people's these boundaries that we've put on ourselves because we think that we have to be and emulate other people. So kind of elements that we talked about today, and I want to talk about them more with other people. So we're going to do a few more episodes on this, because I just am so passionate about you guys figuring out who you are so you get the most out of your time when you're there. I want you to leave going, I am so in love with this. I am so in love with going to my room. Right? And when you're in love, you want to tell other people about it. You want to show other people. And I get it. There are times where I absolutely am like weirded. And we have a couple that we hang out with, and they are constantly, when they found out I did YouTube, they're constantly asking me all these questions. And it always feels so weird because I don't feel like a YouTuber, and I don't feel like, this big person or anything. I'm like, I just put on my pants the same way. I just go in and pull, I just do art like everybody else who does art. Like, I mean, I know it's different, but you know what I mean? Like, I just go and I just do what I love. And it's weird. But when you absolutely are in love with it, you want to talk about it. And so these are things that I want to get you guys excited about, because I want you to love it. I want you to be wanting to bug people. I want you to get online and find people who can also have these conversations with you. And, we're all talking, because, this is why we have these friendships in the community, right? Because our husbands, our friends, and who don't scrapbook, they don't get it, but that's okay, because they have other things that they absolutely love and we can talk about, right? So I want you to be so excited that you're so in love with it that you can't wait for that next date, right? So we're dating our scrapbooking journey here, a creative journey. We're dating it to see it. Do we want to marry it or do we not? So I'll see you guys next week, same time, and have a great scrappy week. Bye.